Well, welcome to Two Drunk Planners. I'm Felicity.
And I'm Amanda.
And we look forward to having you join us every week where we catch up.
Right here on the couch.
Right here on the couch.
We talk finance. We dispel a few of those really weird things that come up on Facebook and socials. Let's talk about what gets our goat.
Mix it with a good cocktail.
Ooh, that's the best bit.
That's
How would
the
we
best
be two
part
drunk
of it.
planners if we didn't do that?
So thanks again for joining us, and remember there's no substitute for good advice. So make sure you hop online and find an advisor when you need one. But in the meantime, enjoy this week's episode.
So our first drink's a mimosa. We're going to pull apart questions and have a bit of plonk along the way.
Correct, and hopefully people join us for that
Indeed.
as well. And then I thought we'll just touch on a couple of little controversial things that are going on in the finance world that we think people should know about.
And then we could share a recipe for next week maybe.
Yes.
Cocktail of the week.
So first question that we're going to crack is one I came across on Facebook only in the last 24 hours.
Oh, it's a new one for me. Here we go.
It's a new one. So it's a couple that have said we've got into financial trouble, so we've bought our own home, then we've taken the equity from that and we've bought an investment property. We come off our fixed rate in a couple of months' time, so we're going to go from our 2% to possibly as high as 6%,
yep.
5.5, 6. And we've done the maths and it's not going to work. So we have a couple of choices. We can look at selling it, but what we'd prefer to do is get mum and dad to access their super and lend us the $200,000 that we need to bring the debt down enough that we can afford it. And when I read that, I thought,
Mum
this
and
is
Dad
right
to the
up
rescue.
our
The bank of Mum and Dad.
Well, you know now it's the biggest risk to somebody's retirement plans is actually their kids. And it's partly that, and it's also partly because of underinsurance, but that's a whole
other
topic.
episode, that one, yeah.
So there are a few interesting responses to it.
What was people's recommendations on this one?
Yeah.
This is all new to me.
Yes. So the first one was, if you're going to get it anyway, get them to gift it to you.
Okay. How old are Mum and Dad, do we know?
Well, apparently they're old enough to get access to their super fund.
So 65 plus we can assume.
Yep.
Okay.
Which also means they're either at or just below age pension age.
Yes.
So the idea of giving it away has a few consequences.
Yeah, well, Centrelink will have some questions about that, won't they?
Yep. So do you want to take us through the Centrelink gifting rules that they
Absolutely.
might have to consider?
Sure. So if they're not self-funded retirees and Centrelink is an issue, the way to legitimately hide or give away money for Centrelink is a limit of $10,000 per person in any 1 year with a maximum of $30,000 over a 5-year period. So $200,000 is a little over the $60,000 between a couple. And then Centrelink views what you've done, if you do it, as a deprivation of assets. So what they do is still count those assets for the 5 years as if they are still sitting in your bank. So that could make massive differences to mum and dad's pension if they are on Centrelink and not self-funded retirees, for sure.
So that one's probably the first issue. The other thing is obviously the person getting the money has their own possible Centrelink implications as well. If
Possibly.
they've got family tax benefits or anything like that.
Yep, suddenly $200,000 extra
Yep.
appearing
Yep. So yeah, mum and dad could actually end up losing their Centrelink
altogether.
altogether because of it.
Yep.
So I would think that's a pretty big.
And I think one of the things that first highlights is people put a very small amount of information out. And when we're planners, one of the first things we have to do is something called Know Your Client.
Yep.
And so, I mean, our discovery or fact find documents can easily be 30 plus pages to get the DNA of your goldfish to your bank accounts to your budget. So having one little, one little question, you know, there is always so much more in the picture that you need to know. So yeah, we don't know whether mum and dad are self-funded, whether there's Centrelink, whether the children have Centrelink.
Well, if they're even over the age of 65 and can access to super, so it's one.
Do they
thing to
have
say, yeah,
siblings?
do that.
You know,
Yeah,
are they
well,
going to
that's
be
the thing.
equalising the estate if
Yeah.
there's siblings involved as
Yeah.
well? So,
And then if they're different ages, does it come out of, even if you do get to the point of, yes, mum and dad should come to the rescue and take money out of super.
and what if the
because-
children split up?
That's right.
You know, is their inheritance for their child protected if the other one runs away, or can it become an estate
Probably
asset?
Not if it's a gift,
Yeah.
unless they've got a binding financial agreement in place already, so
Mm.
there is all of that. So then the next one was get a loan from mum and dad,
Okay.
which obviously also has
Means pull out money out of your super.
implications. Yep. So pull money out of super, lend it, and repay it at 3% rather than 6%.
Sounds great.
Sounds fantastic, but again, Centrelink implications. It's now a loan, so you do have the asset, definitely.
Yep.
But you're only getting 3% on the money, whereas you were getting a pension payment from your super fund that you're not getting already. And then, what was my favourite one? Oh, my favourite one was set up your own self-managed super fund and put the property into that.
Are you going to buy it off yourself? Okay.
And then you can use your super fund, your own super fund money. You don't have to go to mum and dad. Then you could use your own super fund money to pay off the debt. The only
Ow!
issue, yep. So this is why it was my favourite one. Because then an issue that got raised was, oh, but don't forget, then you can't live in it. So I thought it's a good one to explore because there's a few more issues than then you can't live in it.
We could start with arm's length transactions even.
Yes. So clearly having a self-managed super fund
Related parties even.
means that it has to be for the benefits of members and their retirement.
Yes.
So yes, you're quite right. If you own a property in a self-managed super fund, you can't live in it.
Bingo.
You can't even go on holiday in it.
No. And your friends and family can't either.
Correct. And if it happens to be something even like a piece of art that you buy in your self-managed super fund, you can't hang it on your own wall because you're getting personal benefit from it. So that's probably problem number one.
The sole purpose test.
Sole purpose test.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a little bit of jargon for you.
There it is. Look, we've nailed 3 so far.
So-
And look, when it comes to self-managed super funds, there is jargon. It is complicated. There's so much to unpack.
Yep.
Like the fact that you can't sell a home you already own to the self-managed super fund in the first place.
So that is probably the second
biggest issue.
Well, that is the biggest issue, not the second biggest
Because if it
issue.
was an investment property to start with, okay, you can't even buy it at market value
No,
because you're a related party and it's not arm's length. So
correct. So
That-
if
that's
we actually have a
out.
look at some of the things that we would consider, and it's not advice because
It's general information.
A one-line question to start with and not a lot of information about it. But what would you consider?
not a self-managed super fund.
Correct.
And look, again, without having all the information, probably the cleanest and easiest will be for them to sell it. There's no impact on mum and dad, there's no impact on you. You've gone down that path, you've explored it, it hasn't worked. There's consequences to our actions.
Yep.
And if that means, okay, hopefully there's a little bit of growth and you get some money back,
Yep.
you're still ahead.
Yes.
So without a whole lot more information, that may be the easiest, cleanest, and leave everybody better off without all the impacts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one option. Did you come up with some ideas too?
Well, mine was to sell it. So I thought if you can't afford it, sell it. And probably do it before the bank makes you do it. Like if you've done the maths, and good on them for doing the maths.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, because
And
I
look, there
think-
should be a lot of people doing maths with coming off fixed
Exactly.
rates this year.
So I read the other day the cliff, for want of a better word, is in September.
Okay.
That's when the majority of fixed loans come off.
And look, rent has risen. You know, are they in a position where the rent can increase exponentially? Are they in a position where they can get better paying jobs and negatively gear? You know, there are other options to consider when doing the numbers,
Yeah.
but it may be the neatest and easiest
Yeah.
to sell it. And what a great lesson in, you know, counting your chickens
Yes.
before you go into things.
And I think even before that, if it was a client of mine, I'd want to do some cash flow work. So, you know, is it that you can't afford it? Is it a priority thing? Are you actually forced to sell it? Or is it that the easier option is to get mum and dad to help bail you out? Or is it actually that a few of the nice things in life have to go, but then you could keep it if it was something that was really important to you? But ultimately, I think
If selling it and perhaps topping up your own superannuation is building up for your retirement. And look, property markets go in cycles, interest rates go in cycles. You know, there may be a time down the track when you have saved more, and it's an opportunity for another time.
Or even pay off your own principal place of residence mortgage, which is not a tax deductible debt, probably, depending on. And there's a whole nother set of questions, isn't it?
There'll be another episode coming up on that.
Well, it does. It depends. Like if they withdrew equity and it wasn't an offset, then that could be a tax deductible debt. If they had it in an offset account and drew it out, it's
For
not.
income producing purposes, then we're looking at tax deductible debt,
Yeah. So is it even tax deductible against their primary residence? But you'd probably assume, with the limited amount of information that we have, that they have some non-tax deductible debt, unless they'd paid off the whole loan and then withdrew it. So with interest rates at 5.5 and maybe going up 2 more times, maybe setting it in your own mortgage would be a better outcome.
Yeah. And look,
anyway.
you know, the market has gone up. Yeah, it's come off the boil a little, but if you can make your money back, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Good life lesson.
Yes. According to this week's data, property prices are actually going up.
They don't sell quite as quickly, but
No.
yeah.
So for me, I look at it and go, rather than tapping mum and dad, unless mum and dad are well and truly, so I look at it as we always talk about it in terms of being on the airline. You know, they say if in
Put
case
your
of
own
a-
mask.
in case of an emergency, oxygen mask's going to fall out. Fit your own before you fit your kids. So I look at it and go, maybe if mum and dad are self-funded retirees and have no Centrelink issues to worry about, and they have excess money and they want to help, then I would think have a chat with mum and dad. Maybe that's going to work.
But also, you've got to be prepared that they may say no. And
Yes.
that has to be okay too,
Correct.
because it is their money.
Yeah.
So you can't get your nose out of joint
And
because
how
they
hard
can't
is
run
it
to the
for parents
rescue.
To say no anyway. Like,
True.
you're putting them in a pretty tough position to even.
And if there are siblings, is it fair?
Mm.
You know, have they had help before? Do they need help as well? Are they in a position where they don't, but it's just fair that everybody gets the same? So, I mean, that can be a massive cause of arguments and dissent in families. Money is always,
Well, it always is. It's one of the things you don't talk about: sex, politics, money,
and religion.
and religion. We definitely don't. We don't even bring up religion.
We'll stick with money.
We'll just stick with the finance. But it's interesting because I think sometimes you think your family is better off than they really are too. So, or anybody for that matter. I was talking to somebody about, they're working really hard, and they said, no matter how much we work, we just don't seem to be able to do the same that everybody else does. Everyone's going on holidays at the moment.
Yeah, my
Everybody's got a new
Facebook
car.
feed's flooded with barley.
Absolutely, yeah, it is, isn't it? Wild Track. Every mate has bought a new Wild Track.
The Dodge Ram.
Yeah. How come, you're our financial planner? How come we can't do that? And I was trying to explain, you're seeing one tiny little piece of their life, which
You're not
is
seeing the
new
whole
thing.
debt behind it as
correct.
well.
You're
Yeah.
not seeing the debt. And it's interesting because then it showed a study that Data Points did that was all on the amount of time that you spend on social media has a direct correlation to wealth
Oh, wow.
in a negative way.
I bet.
So the more time you spend on Instagram and on Facebook,
Looking at what the Joneses are up to.
the more you tend to spend. And not only that, obviously those platforms are trained to put things in front of you that you want. So, you only have to check out that champagne bucket one time.
Yep. Guess what'll be in my feed
And
when I
it will
look
be
next
in
time.
your feed now,
Yep.
for the next 60
Yeah.
days, trying to entice you to buy 10 of the damn things.
Yeah.
So, interesting to know that it's not, in our office we call it fur coat, no knickers.
I've heard that expression.
You're probably from me.
I did.
It looks great, but you don't really know what's happening in their own life. And the same thing can happen in family. So you can think, oh, they're fine, they don't need the help. But you don't know how much debt they might have.
Exactly.
Or whether they need help
Swimming,
in the future.
yeah, swimming in debt.
Yeah. Or their relationship's about to
Fall apart,
over
yeah.
and all of a sudden they
The
won't
children
have
have got
the same.
issues, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very hard to look at somebody's highlights reel and see what's really going on.
Yes, I don't even have a highlight. And your highlights reel is all about grandbabies.
It will be about grandbabies probably for some time to come, so that'll bore everyone to death. I'll be banned from everything, spamming them with grandbabies.
So I think the outcome of all of that is they probably need advice.
Absolutely.
But if they're going to ask their parents, then their parents probably
Need advice
need
too?
advice even more.
Absolutely.
Like it could probably have bigger implications for the parents than it does for the kids that have to sell a home.
Yep.
Because I know that we have one client of ours who had gifted a property to her daughter years ago. We're nearly at the 5-year mark, thank goodness. So we're at the 4-year mark. So she gets no Centrelink at all. So her and her partner have no Centrelink because
So
of it.
struggling.
They really are. So
Yeah.
they actually went to their daughter and said, "We need some money." And she said, "I don't have any." So they're missing out on their $35,000 a year of Centrelink.
Beautiful gesture.
But 5
Not well
years of
thought through.
$35,000,
Yeah.
and it adds up to.
Yeah, if you don't have the means, I mean, lots of people are asset rich and income poor. So, yeah, beautiful idea, but not practical all the time.
Yeah, so probably more a warning to mum and dad more than a warning to the kids, I think.
Well, they've got a plan B, and it's cool to have a plan B.
Yep.
And yeah, it might be nice if mum and dad are in a position to go, here's, hand over the ready, beautiful. But not everyone's in a position to do that,
Yeah.
so
Well, I think not many people
not at all.
are in a position to do that. Which is an interesting what gets on our goat this week.
Ooh.
About, well, I don't know about you. LinkedIn for me is all about financial planning.
I thought it was a business dating site.
Did you get that email as well?
We'll talk about that later.
I was special. Turns out I'm not special at all.
You are.
No.
You're special,
I'm so
Felicity.
special. How did LinkedIn become an
I
online
don't
dating
know. I digress.
So I noticed the flurry of activity this week about superannuation being taxed.
For high net worth individuals?
Well, it is for high net worth individuals, but I feel as though a lot of the LinkedIn messages missed that altogether.
Okay.
So a lot of the messaging is, did you know your superannuation's about to get taxed a whole lot more and at 30%?
The shock.
The shock and horror. So I thought my get on my goat is misinformation again, but let's actually...
Not knowing the full story once more.
Yep.
For starters, it's still just proposed.
Yep.
It's not legislated.
It's not for everybody.
And look, how many people do you think would have more than the requisite $3 million in super that this will impact?
Correct. So that's the first thing, is it's not for everyone and it's only if you've got $3 million in super.
So that could be, 2 to 5% of the Australian population?
Under 5%.
Okay.
So obviously if you've got two people, like a husband and a wife, and one of them passes and they've both got 1.6,
Yep. Suddenly.
then suddenly they can fall into that bracket. So that's, yes, it can be an issue that we have to be aware of.
Again, there's probably not hundreds of thousands of people in that
Correct.
category either.
Correct. And let's face it, if you have to build long-term wealth, from a tax point of view, is there a better place than super?
Are you still going to get taxed everywhere outside of super at more than that rate?
Correct.
Highly likely.
If it's in your personal name and you're earning on $3 million in your personal name, so let's say you earn 5%, you're on $150,000.
Nice.
Nice. I know, very nice.
Yep.
But this is the people we're talking
This is
about.
40+%,
Yeah. So they're going to pay more there.
personally.
So yes, you could use a family trust so that you could distribute it to people perhaps, depending on your circumstances, that don't have as high earnings. But it's still the best rate that you're going to get. And let's face it, if you've got under $3 million,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And if you're in a pension, then you have zero tax currently, and still putting money into super, and you're at 15.
And again, like you said, it's about the misinformation. It's about a headline. It's about the bad news sells rather than get your facts right.
Yes.
So I think there'll be a lot of stuff getting our goat, Felicity.
Oh, I think so too. Knowing us, I don't think we're going to have a problem coming up with something every Friday afternoon
That's going to get our goat.
that gets our goat.
At least we'll have a drink to be able to cool down.
So we've done get our goat.
We have.
We've gone through a question.
We have.
Is there anything else you want to cover today?
Yeah, what are we drinking next week?
So, well, you know, the whole thing is we're not going to tell you. But for the 35 people that are watching this...
We'll get higher on the reruns.
Oh, absolutely. But they're not joining us for live drinks.
They can in future.
Well, they can catch up.
Play catch up.
They can play catch up.
So what are you going to do? You're going to tease us with
I'm
ingredients or
gonna
something?
tease us with ingredients.
Okay.
So you can play along and hop on the Facebook page and have a good guess of what you think is coming up.
Right.
So what we need this week.
So we've started simple. Champagne and orange juice for a nice little mimosa. That's easy.
Yeah, very easy.
Very easy.
But
Next week we're going to get a little technical?
absolutely.
All
We
right.
have a whole book of cocktails.
Oh,
for
we're
us
going to work our way
through.
through that.
So for next week, we are going to need some gin.
Gin's good.
We are going to need some white cocoa liqueur.
Oh, white chocolate liqueur.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to need some cream.
Okay.
And bring a shaker.
And for all you lactose intolerant people, will coconut cream cut it?
Well, if you must.
Could.
Yes.
You can try.
I haven't tried it. So
I wouldn't give it to the
I
cat
don't wanna
otherwise,
say
but-
anything is okay unless I've fully researched the outcome. It doesn't do it for me, but if you're lactose intolerant,
You could give the coconut cream
you
a
can
try.
Give it a go.
All
Almond
right.
milk.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it'll
Good.
replace cream. You can do your Zimmel, your lactose-free
Yes.
creams.
I think we're going to stick with cream.
We'll stick with cream for us.
But if you're lactose intolerant,
Play along with your best guess.
whatever it
And
is.
Pussycat might enjoy it if you don't. Gin-addled Pussycat.
Well, that could be funny.
It could be cruel, but just stop there.
Yeah, let's just stick with cocktails.
We're getting goats and we're making drunk cats. We can't do that.
We
First
are getting
episode.
ourselves into a world of
We
trouble
are in
already.
already episode 1. It's all over.
Yes. Enjoy this.
I'm sure I
And
will. And see you all next week.
Yes. join us for a
Brilliant.
cocktail.
Cheers to that. That sound was perfect. Hi, I am Amanda, and thank you so much for tuning in to an episode of Two Drunk Planners. We've loved having you join us, and if you liked being there, please remember to like and subscribe.
Don't forget though, no substitute for good advice. What we've talked about today doesn't take into account your situation at all. If you do want advice, check us out on our website, twodrunkplanners.com.au, or if you're looking for an advisor, hop onto the FAAA site and find an advisor there.
And if you've got any questions you'd like to throw at us, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to unpack them on the couch as well.
Until then, catch you next time.
Bye.